And so yeah, he lay on the ground and then thanked the team around him. This was about 9:30 in the morning. He had other things to do that day, and as you said, you know, he got back up, thanked everyone, but he then was off to CrossFit Krypton to squat later that day, and about 4:30, I think he squatted. So you know, we've talked about the training the slow twitch muscles to be able to kind of have that stamina for the sub 5 mile, but then he, like 6 hours later, 7 hours later, is then able to go and squat 500 pounds. Again, that's something that comes through years of diligent practice. If anyone watches the video, they can see the way he's warming up. He is intentional with every rep. There's no just kind of like throwing some weight on and warming up while chatting. Every rep is kind of like focused. And can you kind of comment on like how these two movements conflict and add to the achievement?
So the thing that was perplexing to me was the order. I was a little surprised that he did the run first, unless that's one of the rules of this workout. It would have been much easier on this guy if he had done the lift first. Because one of the things that happens when you lift heavy is you're needing those fastest of the fast twitch fibers, those type 2B fibers, to help you with that lift. And the reason why like lifters don't do 1 rep lifts very often is because of the damage that those lifts can create. And so part of what also happens when you do a heavy lift like this, it forces a very high percentage of recruitment of the motor units to make the lift, meaning by doing this lift, you have activated those fibers. So if you ran later, those greater percentage of recruitment of the fastest of the fast fibers are sitting there. Now, granted, if he does his run, the way it's going to start out for him is that he's going to be utilizing slow twitch fibers. But in a short amount of time, because of the demand for speed, he's going to need his intermediate fibers, those 2A fibers, those 2A fast twitch fibers. And then as he comes around the back end and finishing up that final lap, he may get some recruitment of those fastest of the fast. And so that's the recruitment pattern when you run. But if he did the lift first, which I believe is a much bigger challenge for him, it would have, given him more available fibers that were less fatigued because of the run. So let me explain that. So he does the run first. At the very end, he for sure is recruiting the fastest of the fast fibers because of the amount of force and the duration that all of his slower fibers are fatiguing and failing. So the brain's sitting there going, man, we still have 200 meters to go. What do we do? Let's give him the final available fibers, the only ones remaining, which is the fastest of the fast. So what happens is that if he goes in to try and do a max lift later in the day, those fastest of the fast twitch fibers have some neurological fatigue. They have some recruitment fatigue. And because this lift is clearly heavy for him, he runs the risk of those fastest of the fast fibers not being available for that lift. So the order would have been, in my opinion, significantly easier if he had done the lift first. And it would have made the run, even though I knew the run, I don't think it was a challenge for him, the additional motor unit recruitment from that lift, those fibers would still be active and he would have a higher percentage available in that run, which would give him some benefit. So if anybody's doing a mile for time, doing a 5x5 back squat, 4 days before, or even a 5x5 deadlift is not a bad thing, because those fibers the nervous system will be able to recruit a higher percentage, and you'll find that that extra gear near the end.
Oh, awesome. And I think that's really interesting. I'd not really considered the kind of order, and I'd seen some comments being like, oh, it would be so much more difficult to kind of do it the other way around, and just understanding how those kind of fibers are recruited. And I suppose for me, I was then thinking, God, I wouldn't want to be at the bottom of the 500-pound back squat when you go, oh, those fibers aren't quite there for me right now. You know, it's a bit easier to find that out at 350 meters of the last lap than it is at the bottom of the squat. So,
yeah, I mean, what he did is he really created and made it much higher risk by selecting the order that he did. Yeah, that was an interesting thing for me, and it made me wonder if there was some pattern, because I've always heard it's, when people talk about it. So I used to work with Garrett Fisher. He was, one of the original athletes along with Khalipa and Neil Maddox in 2012 and 13. And Garrett Fisher was capable of running under 5 minutes. And when it was originally proposed, it was like, we talked about it. It's like, I think you got this. But he was just never put in the position of in form to be able to do it. Injuries started happening. And that's the thing, is that you got to be really healthy on two exclusive ends of the spectrum, the muscle fiber spectrum. One end is the endurance aerobic side, and this, this kind of a back squat 1 rep is on the, the speed, strength, power, fast twitch side of the spectrum. And you got to cover both ends, and you got to be healthy on both ends. And that's not easy for an elite level CrossFitter.
Yeah, I got the impression from watching Adam's video that he was confident with the 500, and that he previously put out a video where he'd run just over 5 minutes and done the 500-pound back squat. And there was this, actually, from reading an article on Morning Chalk Up, it was like he felt good on a Sunday, so got up, was able to get the sub 5, and so then it was like, well, I'm now going to go and do the back squat, so I've done them in 1 day. So whether it was it happened, whether that was always the plan, but for him it seemed he was more confident in the 500-pound back squat. But as we've been talking about, his performance in the mile run, there's huge confidence there as well for him to deliver the splits like he did, and speed up at that kind of the mile, last lap bell, as it were.
Yeah, and the thing is that in running, so in lifting, everybody talks about taking and looking at your body weight, right? So how many times body weight was that lift? And so those are numbers that you can easily look up. So here he lifts 2.33 times his body weight. Well, is that good? Well, based upon the tables, an advanced athlete, doing a back squat with that weight would be around 430 pounds. So he went 70 pounds more than that. Elite is considered 525. So he's not quite elite, but it's pretty darn good for a recreational lifter, right? But you can't say that, oh, well, what if it changes where we change his body weight? We manipulate numbers to get him to elite? Well, you can't, because it's based upon your body weight. The difference is, in the movement of running, you can take and look at what a lighter weight athlete would be relative to a prior performance. And you can make a solid guess on that performance. And so that's where you can see the talent level. He's got some undeniable talent on the aerobic side of the equation. Because you can see, if we lower his weight and he's specialized in the movement of running, he can dramatically improve. But the truth is that what we're seeing is a guy who is a general fitness runner and a general fitness lifter. And this is the beauty of CrossFit. You're seeing an athlete who, keep in mind, the average individual has a ratio of 50% slow twitch fibers and 50% fast twitch fibers. They're in the middle. So I have 88% slow twitch fibers. That's why I'm good in long time domains. That's why I'm never going to be strong. But what CrossFit's done is it created a sport for the middle population, the 50-50 people that aren't on the extremes. The Olympians are on the extremes because of the way they were born. It's genetics. They're given gifts. Like, my lungs are 6.2 liters. My VO2 in the movement of running back in the day was 89. I had 3.4% body fat. I was 150 pounds. And, you know what? I was genetically gifted with that 88% slow twitch muscle fiber, that I can do long time domains, but I'm never going to be able to sprint. But CrossFit created the space for these athletes who love sport, but because they weren't on the extremes, they were told to leave. And that's what happens. And it's too bad, you know, that occurs, that people that love it are genetically not born to stay in it. And eventually they get whittled out. CrossFit created something for the middle population. And what we're seeing is people like Adam that are an anomaly. He migrates all the way over to the end of the endurance spectrum. Arguably, that VO2 that he can generate is the best in terms of the running community. Alberto Salazar had a VO2 of 76 and he ran 208 in the New York Marathon. I mean, 76, you got a guy, if he drops the weight down to where Alberto Salazar, 76 it's chump change. It's not even in the same sandbox. So he also takes his strength and he migrates over to the speed strength Olympian weightlifting background. Remember, he's right on the verge of being considered elite for his body weight. He's covered this spectrum that is unheard of. And that's what CrossFit has created. That's what's so special about it, that there's now a sport for someone who doesn't want to specialize. They want to do general training, but look at the greatness. This, Adam, what he did showcases the greatness of this sport. I run 2 days a week and I can run sub 5. I lift 2 days a week and I can do 2.33 times my body weight in a back squat. That's unheard of. That's unheard of for a general fitness enthusiast who probably goes to yoga once a week too. It showcases the greatness of the sport, and that's what's rad. That's really an incredible thing.
Awesome. And I think that feels like an amazing place to end. Just you've summed it up perfectly, and I think provided such expert insight to many people who might be celebrating that achievement. You know, it's been pretty quiet in terms of kind of the competitive CrossFit that's been going on because of everything going on in the world. And so everyone really has come around and celebrated the first time that someone has on record done that. So thanks very much for kind of sharing that. One caveat was actually, and he does it at the end of his video, in fact, because it doesn't even make it into the title of his video, is that he adds in the 50 unbroken pull-ups as well. And I think Castro talks about that when he writes about it in his book, that it makes sure that person is well-rounded. So he adds in that upper body kind of gymnastic endurance as well. So it echoes what you've just been saying about it's for the people within the middle who are well-rounded, want to generally train, and he demonstrates it on 1, 2, in fact 3 kind of points of a triangle.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is that, I mean, it's not that this hasn't been done, right? You know, a lot of people say, oh, so-and-so has done it before and football, blah, blah, blah. You know what? This is a guy that does CrossFit. He is not a specialist in any particular area, meaning he's not just doing back squat and running at 5-minute mile pace. This is just one of the things that he does, along with a whole variety of other things. And we know that because you just go back and look at his CrossFit, you know, Open, CrossFit Regional, CrossFit Games history. This guy is a general fitness enthusiast. And that's what's really incredible, is that there has never been proof that this can be done. You know, the mistake that CrossFit HQ makes is that they don't track any analytics. They don't demonstrate these certain things. Here's a guy that did 2 things that are on mutually ends of the spectrum, and he did it in the same day. And that showcase is what we're talking about in the sport. That's what you can create if you're sitting in the middle, meaning if you were kicked out of a sport because you were told you weren't good enough, but you love sport. Through following the protocols of CrossFit, you can migrate closer to the endurance end and closer to the speed strength power end. You're the one that's going to survive the zombie apocalypse. You know what? Usain Bolt is going to die and I'm going to die. I'm not going to make it. I could run away, but you know what? I'm not going to be able to hunt. Usain Bolt, you know what? He'll be good for about 400 meters, and then he's going to get caught.